Hi, welcome back to the channel. Natasha's Reads Right Now, and right now I'm ranting about the new movie Artemis Fowl. I'm pretty excited for this review. I've never done a glaringly negative review before, and it's weird. I'm kind of excited. First off, the movie does not follow the books, which I understand. With movies, it is a different medium, and so you will have to change some things. But they completely went off script, and there's a brand new story, there's new backstories. And my biggest sadness from this movie was the character deflations. The special things that made up my favorite characters in the books was completely stripped away in the movie. So starting with our anti-hero protagonist, Artemis Fowl. He is supposed to be a criminal mastermind. And in this movie, that gets stripped away and turns him into a spoiled smarty pants who has a big mouth. In the book, he definitely has that smart mouth, but he also has the real world criminal experiences to back it up. All of this gets stripped away simply because the movie added Artemis Fowl Sr., his father, into the story from the very beginning. In the books, his father's been missing for about 2 years. And in the movie, having him around, his father even teaches him about fairies, like drills it in him, quizzes him, and really preps him up. And Artemis Fowl has no work to do. The Big Fairy book, which is the first contact he has with the fairies in the books, conveniently his father has put that book onto the computer. And his bodyguard butler conveniently leads him to his father's lair where he finds all this information. The artifact he needs in this book, Mulch opens the safe for him to get it, and it's conveniently in Fowl Manor. Like, there's no reason for Artemis to leave home because everything he needs is at his fingertips, literally. Artemis Fowl was completely in the dark the whole time. He had no idea about his father's criminal activity, and he's upset when the news is calling his father a criminal. And in the books, he is fully aware of this criminal activity, and he's a part of it to rebuild the Fowl fortune to search for his father. And then at the end of the movie, he calls himself a criminal mastermind when really all the prep work was done by his father. He just picked it up and completed it. And there was no ransom that he won from the fairies like in the book. So I don't know. I feel like his character is very deflated and diminished. My girl, Holly Short. And I'm going to combine this with Commander Root because I feel like both of these characters kind of deflate one another. First off, Commander Root is not a guy in this movie. He is a girl. And a big part of Holly Short's story is that she was the first female officer in the Leprechaun squad. And having her commander be a woman right off just takes away that whole backstory. Holly Short was a pioneer. She had to work doubly as hard as anyone else to make it in with all the guys. Usually I'm all for giving female lead roles to period movies where females weren't respected or weren't leaders. But this is such a big part of Holly Short's backstory that it completely takes away all of her motivation. Her new backstory in the movie is everyone sees her father as a traitor, and so I feel like she's working more towards clearing his name than working on building herself up in the ranks. And that's not a story I'm really connecting with. Also, a completely glaringly obvious problem I had with the movie is that Holly Short in the book, fairies, she's like 3 feet tall. And standing side by side with Artemis Fowl in his manor, she is taller than Artemis Fowl. I feel like the movie, they had no intention of even trying to make the characters their proper sizes. Even Mulch, my favorite character by far in the book, he's a giant dwarf for some reason. And that leads me into his character deflation. No, he is just a normal dwarf who plows through things even better than the other dwarves. That's what makes him special, not because he's taller than everyone. That really, really, truly bothered me. A dwarf's hair, when he plucks it out, it's supposed to stiffen, and he's supposed to like use it to pick locks and stuff. But in the movie, somehow it magically like unfurls from his face and like goes in and twists and turns to unpick the lock. Didn't like that. It takes all of his artistry away from it if his hair is just doing it automatically. Okay, now I've come to Butler and his now niece, Juliet. First off, they don't call him Butler. They call him Dom. See, like, I don't even remember his first name because Artemis always calls him Butler in the books. But as a term of respect, that's just his last name. And he is a well-trusted bodyguard in the books. And that's the whole big thing about his name is people underestimate him because Artemis calls him Butler. So they don't expect him to, pull a bunch of weapons out of his coat. I guess they did change his name so people wouldn't confuse him as the butler. But I felt that that was part of his charm, is he's underestimated because of his name. And also, he does not seem very skilled at fighting in this movie. I mean, they show one training sequence between him and his niece, who in the book is his sister. I don't even see the need to change that. Like, first off, Juliet didn't do anything to this story in the movie, so why did they even need to change her to his niece? Have no idea. And they did the one training sequence together, like a quick, I don't know, like 8-second clip. And that was about all the skills we see during the big troll fight, which is supposed to be epic, legendary. I mean, suit and armor, sword, and fairies would study it in the academy for years later. He was just getting tossed around like a rag doll. And also Juliet, oh my gosh, there is this great line that she says to Holly in the book about, oh, I hope you try to do something because I would love to practice my pile drive, because she's all into WrestleMania. And oh my gosh, that was gone and I was so disappointed. My husband was so disappointed. That was like his favorite quote from the book. And in the book, Holly ends up getting the upper hand and putting Juliet in a trance where she thinks she's watching WrestleMania on the cement wall, that would have been hilarious to see. And then Holly gets out on her own, when in the movie, Artemis just lets her out. This leads me to one of my biggest problems in the movie. Everything was so instant. The friendship between Artemis and Holly, when he kidnaps her, he literally shoots her down, kidnaps her, and takes her back to his manor. She's upset at the beginning, but she gets over it so quick and they shake hands and now they're friends forever. I mean, even in the second book, that's barely just happening. So that really bothered me. It was way too instant. An instant connection was Artemis and Mulch. Like, Artemis pretends that Mulch was part of the plan from the very beginning. And in the book, Mulch is so clever and sneaky that he gets into Fowl Manor without having Artemis detect him for quite a while. And now Mulch and Artemis are besties now too, apparently. And at the very end of the movie, you know, Artemis saves Mulch from imprisonment, when in the book he actually tricks some sensors that the fairies gave him to keep track of him, and they think he is dead. So Mulch, once again, his cleverness is given away to Artemis. God, all of my favorite characters, everything special about him keeps getting misplaced. Everything special gets taken up by a different character. So that is by far what really hurts me the most about this movie, with being a fan of the books beforehand. And the last really nitpicky thing that I'm going to end with is, first off, Artemis Fowl Sr. and Foley. I'm going to start with Foley because he was so flippin' funny in the books, where he wears his tin hat so that the mudmen above won't pick his brain and take all of his patents and inventions away. And they just, I guess they didn't put that in the movie because they wanted him to be more of a, you know, a pretty guy. And that really bugs me because you take all of his quirkiness away just so that he looks nicer on screen. He still did have a couple of fun lines. I did like that. But yeah, the tin hat is Foley. Oh my gosh. And I felt like the same thing with Artemis Fowl Sr. You know, during the 2 years, he suffered a lot. I mean, he loses a leg. He's all burned up from the ship going down. And that he's almost unrecognizable. And, you know, he suffers hardships too. But in this one, he's still looking all pretty and fancy, even though he's been held captive for a little bit. I don't know what to think. They took all the quirks, all the hardships away. They stripped it down to the bare minimum work each character had to do. I am not a fan, but I will always be a fan of the books. The books were masterfully written and really built up the characters. My recommendation is, people who have read the books and love them, I don't recommend this movie to. Unless you're in need of a good rant, like apparently I was in need of. So, and people who want to get into the books who haven't read them, I would recommend reading them first before watching the movie. I do think this is a good children's action-packed movie. It's very fast-paced, so kiddos won't get bored. Thank you so much for staying with me through this negative rant I had about the Artemis Fowl movie. Let me know down in the comments what you think of it, if you love the books and you hated the movie, or if you love the books and you were okay with what they did to the movie. Let me know down in the comments. As always, if you like the books better than you do the movies and you cannot lie, go ahead and like and subscribe.